have to say I'm really impressed with the work that you're doing. It was two and a half years.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 years. I mean, when we started Atheist Ireland, which is about 10 years ago now, our first couple of years it was more or less just trying to normalise the use of words like atheism and secularism, and we had to do that before we got into the type of work that you're already doing here. You know, like a lot of our early radio and television stuff, we'd spend the first half of the interview explaining what atheism means. You know, like people generally thought atheists hate God, and they didn't know what humans were. They thought they didn't wear clothes. So we were at that level when we're starting off, and but we've moved on significantly in the last decade, particularly in the Republic, and I think it's probably the same up here. You know, the population has moved on. The churches don't control the population in the way that they used to. And I think the task now, both here and in the Republic, is to get the state to catch up with the people, and to get the laws to catch up with the reality that the churches no longer control the hearts and minds of the people. And fortunately, we're living in a time where very significant political change can happen very suddenly. That it's not really a question of, gradual evolutionary change where you just gradually get a bit here and a bit there. What tends to happen now with a lot of things, from here in terms of the Belfast Agreement, from the fall of apartheid, at the end of the Soviet Union, we're living in an age where just pressure builds up and suddenly it just all changes. And it all changes very quickly. You wouldn't have been able to predict 12 months before it happened that it would happen. And I think that's what's going to happen in terms of secularism in both sides of the border, in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And I don't think it's necessarily anything specific that we do that will cause it. I mean, these things typically happen just because something happens in society, or some trigger event happens. In terms of the abortion campaign in the Republic of Ireland, it was the death of Savita Halappanavar. Just something tragic happens, or something positive happens, and it catches the public mood, and that triggers the change. But then at that stage, all of the work that we have been collectively doing then becomes retrospectively useful, because then there's a roadmap for, well, where do we go from here? And so that's really what we're providing. And what I'm really impressed about what you're doing is you're combining the educational work, the cultural work, the political work, and you're getting all of those things in place so that when that breakthrough does happen within society, that there will be a roadmap there for a properly secular Northern Ireland. Now, in terms of what the overlaps with what we do, I mean, we do a lot of work in education. I think education is really the key. We campaign on education, both in terms of the type of thing you're doing, in terms of talking to kids in schools, but also in terms of trying to change the curriculum, and we do it on a human rights basis. We focus on a set of principles called the Toledo Guiding Principles, which were put together by the OSCE. The Toledo Guiding Principles on teaching about religions and beliefs in a multicultural, pluralist society. And the key to that is that children should be taught about religions and beliefs in an objective, critical and pluralistic manner, but they shouldn't be taught that any particular belief is true. And there's a whole range of stuff in those principles. We follow a lot of these human rights principles, because we find that when we're campaigning on issues like that rather than just saying, this is Atheist Ireland's view, what's your view, and so on, if we have human rights principles as the closest that we have to a set of agreed principles for living together in a compassionate and empathetic and cooperative way, then those are things that we go back to. So I mean, I think if I'd urge you to consider building our campaigns around those human rights principles. We find that they're very difficult for people to fight against. So I'll just finish by saying, look, I'm really impressed with what you've done in 2.5 years, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to working with you in the future.